Gervonta Davis is taunting Frank the Ghost Martin. He says he can't drink no water. He said he knows he's thirsty because he can't drink no water as he's trying to cut weight ahead of the fight. Wow. And I just can't wait for this fight. Listen, I did a part 1 of this video. They did the final press conference for Gervonta Tank Davis of Baltimore versus Frank the Ghost Martin. Detailed video, a lot that I uncovered and went over in that video. I'll put a card at the end of this video. Make sure you guys check it out. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great stuff to help sell and push pay-per-views and make people want to see the fight and make you anticipate the fight. Frank Martin, you know, he was a bit more mellow, but he tried to hold his ground. I think Gervonta tried to bully him and really psychologically get in Frank Martin's head. And I think to a degree, he successfully did that. Now, here's the thing, fighters fight. Some guys are better on the mic, but that doesn't really mean anything when it comes to the fight. We've seen it with Rolando Rolly Romero. He had a bunch of like shticks and gimmicks, and he put Pitbull Cruz, his face on a chain, and Chihuahua puppies, and called Pitbull a Chihuahua. But then when he fought him, Pitbull Cruz got the last laugh. Same thing when Rolly fought Gervonta Davis. So saying it is one thing, but actually producing on the given night is something completely different. Now let me talk about Gervonta's comments on Frank Martin in the water.
Does that motivate him? Does that fuel your thoughts?
Frank Martin, you guys seen the clip at the beginning. Gervonta Davis was, as the host was trying to commence and keep the show running, Gervonta was having a sidebar conversation with Frank Martin. And the whole time it looked like he was talking trash. He was taunting Frank Martin, trying to belittle him, get under his skin, say, I'm gonna stop you on Saturday night. You know, they were talking about the sparring, all kinds of stuff. But you guys seen the clip at the beginning. Tank Davis also said, he held up a water bottle and says, you can't drink none of this. You can't drink any water because you're trying to cut weight. Now, I'm not in camp with either of these guys, so I don't know if that's true, but people talk. The industry is a small circle. And the funny thing is, I did an Ego Weight Watcher video. Check that on the channel, but it's one of my later drops talking about this fight. And in that video, I noted that Frank Martin, he just looks big, like in shape, but big, like he looks brolic. And then I seen, after I had already made the video, recorded it, I seen there was a podcast interview with Frank Martin on the Pivot podcast. And he was saying that he used to wrestle in the 150s. And then even when he first turned pro, he was saying that, I think he said he started at 140 or some 141, like in his amateur career. And he turned pro and started at 135. So similar to the situation with Sean Porter, where Sean Porter in the amateurs, he was 165. As a pro, he came down to like the 150s and then eventually got down to the full 147. So there's a lot of guys in boxing that are doing it, especially in this modern current age. There's a lot of fighters who their walk around weight is something completely different than the weight that they cut and campaign to. So I noted that in the Ego Weight Watcher video, I must know a thing or two about boxing, because this was before I had even any knowledge that before he was a pro boxer, he was competing in sports, be it wrestling or amateur boxing or whatever, at a higher weight. And I could kind of see that. I could see it. I told you he had a build like kind of like a running back. He just looks big. And the other thing is, against a guy like Tank looks like he's had possibly his best fight camp or at least his best one in quite some time. He looks totally dedicated. And I thought that was a bit weird. And I didn't talk about this in the press conference review and breakdown. But when Frank Martin was talking about how great of a camp Tank had and how he pulled out all the stops, I really kind of found that to be a weird comment from Frank Martin, because the context of it is Tank Davis was ridiculing him and belittling him, saying that the guys you're sparring with, I know a lot of the guys, or I've heard who you brought into camp, and they are trash. They ASS, they butt. You know, those dudes aren't good. And then in response, Frank Martin was saying, like, you know what you're up against with me, so you got the best of the best in sparring. So I thought that was kind of weird, because you're almost giving him credit for having a strong camp. And he's like, you training for me. You've been studying me for a year. So whether this is true or not, is Frank Martin kind of giving up leverage. Like, if you guys notice my channel, I'm not a big fan of giving up leverage in a battle or before a battle, right? Like paying compliments, even in the fight where you see guys, somebody get their butt kicked in a round, and then before they go, the bell rings, ding, 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 to go back to the corner. And before they go back to the corner, they shake hands and dap up with the fighter that just almost stopped them in that round. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a different level of competitive, but I don't, you could be friends later. You could be friends after the fight. That's what I'm on, but not during the fight. You dapping up the person and, oh man, you really brought it to me. I think that's kind of weird. And that's kind of what Frank Martin did to a degree when it comes to bragging that Gervonta Davis had a good camp with great sparring partners and has been studying him for a year. Then that makes the fight more dangerous for you. So I wouldn't have personally said that. That's just my personal opinion, but it is what it is. He said it, and Tank was in the middle of roasting him for his selection of sparring partners. And again, I think this fight very well could come down to experience, and Tank is greater in that department with experience. He has made the money. He's performed in front of millions. No diddy. With the Ryan Garcia fight, which was his very last fight. And he's been under the bright lights. You don't want to make mistakes under the bright lights. So having that experience and showing that you can have a calculated performance, stick to the game plan, make adjustments under those bright lights, that experience is invaluable. And I think Tank easily has the experience factor when it comes to this. But nonetheless, it should be a great fight. Frank Martin looks in shape. He is a cerebral fighter. He's a fighter I've been watching for a while. His experience is not on the same level as Tank Davis, but nonetheless, he's a skilled southpaw. He's explosive. He's athletic. He has been waiting for these types of opportunities. Came very close to getting a Shakur Stevenson. Close, but no cigar. Now he has the biggest guy in boxing, which is Gervonta Davis. If you beat Tank, I mean, the paydays increase, your notoriety increases, because that would be considered an upset. So I'm definitely looking forward to the fight. As far as Tank Davis, he was taunting him with the water, and he kept insinuating almost that Frank Martin had a rough camp. He said, I seen under your eyes, you had some, like a black eye basically, or some bruising under your eye. You had a weight cut. So maybe somebody's speaking to Tank. Boxing is a small circuit. Maybe he has a spy in camp. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, but Tank believes that Frank Martin is possibly dehydrated, which, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that weight cut is rough, given the fact of, like I keep telling you, Frank Martin is big, and he has a lot of muscles. So I'm just real curious to see how this fight plays out, especially if he had a rough weight cut. But I've seen it. I think Terrence Crawford had a tough weight cut with Errol Spence, and I said that before the fight. And I think Errol Spence had a tough weight cut, but on the night of the fight, after replenishing, Crawford looked like a demon. He looked like a monster. So we've seen it before where guys can have tough weight cuts and then rehydrate and replenish. And the fact that we don't do same day weigh-ins, that's a good advantage for guys in 2024, because as long as you replenish well and you're feeling well on the night, then you're back. Needless to say, this should be a great fight. Frank Martin, you know, he's trying to stand his ground. Gervonta Davis is trying to get under his skin. Who will win this Saturday? Again, we will be doing the Boxing Ego watch party, so grab your seats now. You don't want to miss this. This is going to be a great fight, and in the words of Highlander, there could be only one. Errol Spence backing his guy, Frank Martin. There was that exchange between Gervonta and Errol Spence. If Frank did struggle to make weight, you know, then that's not going to be a good thing, because Tank Davis looks like he's in shape, ready to go, and, you know, ready to throw down. All will be revealed this Saturday night.